for the policy meeting. So we have a new policy that we're going to talk about that is being updated, and you want to give us an introduction, please?
It's actually a revision of policy 251, which deals with students who are homeless or in foster care or other educational instability issues. The McKinney Veto Act is a federal law that protects children who are considered homeless. And homeless isn't just what we might think of homeless, of living outside, living in a park. It's actually people who've been displaced from their home and living in temporary homes, or living with another family, or living with their extended family. So we deal with this more than you probably would realize. And the state and the federal government came up with some new guidelines that are required to be put into this policy. So Dr. Hay and Mrs. Wyback worked with Mrs. Flisek on this, and I'll turn it to you, Dr.
Yes, so the changes that are being recommended in this policy 251 are coming about because of Act 1 that was passed in 2022. And that was a large bill that included redefining the overarching kind of terminology for homelessness. Homelessness is now underneath educational instability. So that's kind of the overarching term for students who may be homeless, who may be in or out of foster care, who are adjudicated, so they may be moving placements in and out of a juvenile placement. And it's all around just reducing the barriers to these students accessing school. That's the primary goal of the Act 1 of 2022, and the recommended changes to 251 come directly from the Pennsylvania School Board Association, and they're just changing up the terminology and adding a lot of language around educational instability.
Right, thank you. So I know there's a lot here in this new policy.
Yes,
and it's
quite long.
But it is regulated as in all of our policies that are first started at the Pennsylvania School Board Association level, who follows whatever PBE mandates. So a lot of this is required.
Right, and much of it, if not all of it, are things that we've already been doing for years and years. It's just now combined into one policy. So we've always, obviously, under McKinney-Vento, met the needs of our students who are homeless, and we've always had students in and out of foster care, and we've met their needs. It all is just coming under one policy now. And there is one new thing that comes out of this new policy, which is what they're defining as an Act 1 plan. So if you have a student who we receive for whatever reason, they are homeless, or they're in and out of foster care, or maybe they're due to instability in, say, the parents' jobs, they have to move from multiple districts around Pennsylvania in one school year, then those students are considered to have educational instability as well. Especially at the high school level, when you're trying to earn credits towards your graduation, that can be very disruptive. So we're required to put together an Act 1 plan to ensure that they are meeting the graduation requirements in a timely manner. So it's really about facilitating their progression towards graduation in a timely manner and breaking down those barriers that may be preventing that.
Okay. I think you did a good job of it, so thank you. So we do have the homeless population, unfortunately. Do you have an estimate of how many students?
No, we have right now 34 students marked as homeless in our system.
And so we have, in the school district, we have a piece of it, but there are other agencies and services. So
right, sometimes we have Montgomery County Children and Youth, or another county's children and youth involved in those students. Sometimes there may be foster care situations, or it may be working hand in hand with another district. So maybe their district of prior residence is Norristown, for example, or North Penn even, and now they're living here because of something that happened to their home. And so we work together with the prior district to make sure all of those things are communicated and everything's facilitated. We share transportation costs. It's really a team effort once you have a homeless student.
So part of the veto, McKinney veto, like we this is one example of many that we've had. A student that was living here was displaced for whatever reason. It could be a fire, it could be something else. They moved in with a family in Cheltenham. We shared transportation costs with Cheltenham to get them there every day and back. That's just an example of what we're requiring.
Yeah, and the policy says they're flexible, but each student has a unique circumstance and we accommodate their circumstances. Yeah, I was always asking about the expenses related to this, and your answer was the other services that are available to our families.
And locally, Eastern Opportunity Center helps the population.
Are there any other questions?
The only thing I found a little bit confusing was the scenario for Dr. Gallagher just outlined was they moved to a different district and then there's transportation issues that wasn't exactly clear from the policy
So
who's responsible for
McKinney-Vento dictates that if you start the school year, say you started at Souderton, and then you become homeless, and now you're residing in Cheltenham, the McKinney-Vento law says that the student has the right to still attend where they started school.
Okay.
So that's where the transportation issues come in. Now, if it's very, very far, oftentimes we'll have a joint meeting and we'll make a determination together with the parents and any other people involved with the family to determine where it's in their best interest to attend school. That's called a best interest determination.
Okay.
There's a lot of interaction in our district with Penridge on this issue, North Penn and Pinkerton. And for example, last year a Penridge bus would come every day to the high school to pick up, and someone would ask me, why is that Penridge bus there? I don't know. So I finally got the answer. Well, get one of their homes.
No, I guess the only thing I was concerned of is it's something that, I mean, obviously it's discreet when a student goes through this. But is there any way to try and work with the families a little bit to see, a lot of these schools and families and parents are so willing to help everyone else that if they could do a clothing drive or something like that to help these kids.
Yeah, so our school counselors are like our school-based point of contact for a homeless family, and then we have a district-level home and school visitor. Oftentimes, the initial contact though, or the initial notification comes through the school counselor, and then the counselor also manages those lists, like at Christmas time, at the holidays, when we do donations and drives. Those families are always on those lists. So we are discreet about it, but we handle it mainly for our school counselors. Yeah.
That was answered by Megan on the best interest determination, so thank you.
The same thing on the policy itself, Jen, it said that each student has a different circumstance.
Right.
And that's what this policy does. It's very well written out that we need to accommodate.
Yep.
Good policy. No comment, just thank you.
One term that I noticed a lot reading through the document was the district point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
So is that their specific guidance counselor who's been handling them, or is there someone who's dealing with all these?
For our homeless official district point of contact, if you were to look up, like say you became homeless and you're like, I'm just gonna go to the website and look up homelessness and see who I call, it's Rami Tressler, who is our home and school visitor. And her office is here, but she's often out in buildings, and as you can imagine, we often get this information either through the school counselor or when they're coming in to register through our registration office. So it flows through many channels, but Rami Tressler is the person who keeps the list and makes sure everyone's getting what they need.
I graduated high school with Rami.
Oh, there you go.
In that 10-day period that they have to do that assessment we're talking about for graduation, when they're interacting with the other school districts, I'm assuming everyone's working really hard to help these kids.
Yeah, we're requesting. This law really makes it that people need to be flexible. So, we put a plan together, we make sure it's marked in their file, and then we're making sure that if that student moves on to another district, then that new district has that plan that we put together. And because of this Act 1, everyone really needs to kind of follow that plan to make sure the student is not held up from graduation.
Just one more question, I think on the record actually, so if, let's say that they're in middle school, they're graduating middle school, but now they're in Cheltenham, at that point, if we know they're gonna be there, is that something where it would be like, they would only be the permanent move at that point? Because maybe they're the only ones left in school or something, or?
Yeah,
do we try to keep
typically,
it
the new spot becomes permanent once they have permanent housing there. So if they're still doubled up with another family or living with a family member or they're in a shelter, we have families who have been in shelters in and out for years. So they just continue to be our student, even though they may be in shelters in all sorts of other districts around the county. So we really, again, it's just individualized. We make that determination where they should be going to school, and it's never a line in the sand, shall I say. It's always a conversation with everyone who's involved.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because at that point, it's just a little more stability,
Yeah.
you know, so that's good, excellent.
Okay, any other questions?
Just wondering, I know on board docs where to see the current policy. Where is it possible to see this new language before you adopt it? Is that available online somewhere?
It is in Board Docs.
It is
Yeah, in the draft section of the
in the,
policies.
oh, okay.
The other point. Yes.
Follow up to Rose's question, there are actually two draft 251s on board docs. There's a 251 from 2022 and a 251 volume 3, 2023. I would assume it would be the 2023 language.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question, this is gonna maybe sound weird, but is there a provision in this, the Act 1 stuff, that a student can do some of this stuff on their own if they don't have support of a parent, like a high school junior or senior, say, who needs to get their own transportation, needs, like it's an unsteady situation with their parents, and
Yes.
this happened just last year. We had somebody staying with us, and
Yes.
it's like, I obviously am not their guardian or anything, I couldn't do anything, and it was
Right.
really hard because their parents were saying they were fine, and
Yeah,
They're like-
typically, when we have a student who may be 18 or close to 18 and is out of their home, that's a situation where if the counselor is aware of it, they're referring it directly to Rami Tressler or to me, and then we are working with that student to make sure we're identifying them, and then making sure they have a way to get to school, they have a free or reduced lunch if they need it, all of those things, yeah.
And there usually the student also gets support during the holidays.
It's called an unaccompanied youth.
Yeah.
okay.
And, excuse me, just to return to the earlier question about where to find the policy, there's actually 3 that appear in the draft section.
In the draft section.
It's the straight one that says 251, not the ones that say volume 3 or volume 5.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just had a quick question. You said that Act 1 was passed in 2022. So how come it's taken this long to draft this policy?
Because this is when the Pennsylvania School Board Association, there's typically a delay between the passing of the new laws, and then they go through all of the hundreds of policies, and they then will send out new ones, revisions, and then we take it up to revise. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we have to the end of the year.
typically a delay.
Yeah.
And actually, the Act 1 plans, so that what I talked about was the newest, the one new thing in this policy. We were doing those last year because we had been aware of that change to the law.
Okay, any other questions? And very good questions, thank you. So I just want to reinforce our policy. We're talking about this policy now. It will go to the board later this month, and there's 2 subsequent readings. So it will be on the board action agenda for 3 consecutive times. So if you think you're reading it and you go, I have another question, ask it, because there is opportunity.
This is reading 1.
Yes, reading 1. Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
The committee should move